Hello and welcome to Race for the White House, a daily show where we get you the latest from the 2024 US presidential election. On today's show, we bring you the shocking allegations leveled against Donald Trump for groping a model in 1993. On the other side of the show, we also tell you about Donald Trump's soft spot for Adolf Hitler. All of this and much more, so let's get started. Trump's saga of inappropriate behavior with women is unending. With less than 2 weeks remaining before America elects its new leader, the Republican presidential candidate has found himself in hot water. A former model has now accused Donald Trump of groping her at a private party in New York. The woman, identified as Stacey Williams, has accused Trump of touching her inappropriately in 1993. Even more disturbingly, she claims that she was introduced to the then business mogul by none other than Jeffrey Epstein. Epstein was the disgraced financier whose shadow continues to loom large. The timing of this accusation is significant, as Trump is already grappling with multiple legal cases and political scrutiny. However, the latest allegation brings Trump's long-standing connection to Jeffrey Epstein back into the spotlight. Now, according to Williams, who is now stepping forward after years of silence, she was introduced to Trump by Epstein at one of his infamous social gatherings. Just to give you some background, Epstein was arrested in 2019 on charges of trafficking and sexually abusing underage girls. He took his own life while awaiting trial. His death has left many questions unanswered, but his ties to powerful men, including Trump, have remained a source of controversy. Now, Williams alleges that Trump greeted her, pulled her towards him, and started groping her at a party in Manhattan. She made the allegation during a Zoom call organized by a group called Survivors for Kamala Harris. The former model also went on to say that later in 1993, Trump had sent her a postcard of his residence, Mar-a-Lago. The card read, "You're home away from home," in Trump's handwriting. This is not the first time Williams went public with her ordeal. She has been sharing her trauma on social media posts over the years. As Stacey Williams steps forward, she becomes the latest voice in a growing list of women who say they were preyed on by wealthy and influential men. During the Zoom meet, Williams reminded the voters of America that Trump is the only former president found liable for sexually abusing a woman. Earlier this year, a federal jury found Trump liable for battery and defamation against columnist E. John Carroll. Carroll has claimed that Trump had raped her in a Manhattan department store in the mid-1990s. Now, these allegations add to a list of growing sexual misconduct claims against Trump, who has denied all accusations of inappropriate behavior over the years. His legal team has yet to respond to Williams' lawsuit. Trump has historically brushed off such claims as politically motivated attacks meant to undermine his campaigns. This latest accusation, however, arrives at a critical time. With the presidential election coming in just 2 weeks, the political fallout could be significant. Trump's opponents are expected to seize on this scandal, while his supporters have often stood by him. Viewing previous allegations is part of a broader effort to discredit him. But with a fresh accusation, the specter of Jeffrey Epstein's criminal legacy hanging over this story, the impact on undecided voters remains to be seen. Now, for more on this, we are joined by our White House correspondent, Rohit Sharma. Rohit, thank you so much for joining us. Could you tell us a little bit about this incident? What exactly has happened?
Well, can you believe it? We're only 11 days away from the US presidential election. It is hardly about hours, within days when we'll start counting, that we're only so many days away and hours away from America deciding who its next leader is going to be. And this is the time when, we usually see something that moves the needle, something that comes along and changes voters' mind, and especially those voters who haven't really decided who they want to vote for. And today, I think the Kamala Harris campaign tried to do exactly that when they held a call called Survivors for Kamala. And on that call was Stacey Williams, a famous model from the 90s who made allegations against Donald Trump and talked about how Donald Trump groped her in the winter of 1992, early 1993. It's just, again, another Hail Mary, if you were to call it, to make sure that independent voters can have another look at Donald Trump before voting for him in this very crucial election.
Rohit, could you also tell us a little bit about why Stacey Williams has chosen to come out with the story now?
Well, look, Donald Trump has courted a lot of controversies, especially when it comes to women. He has been convicted in the Jean Carroll case already in New York. We've seen the case with the porn star. We've seen actually two of them. And we've heard about, how he has stepped out on his marriage multiple times. But the fact that, Stacey Williams would bring it up 2 weeks just about 2 weeks to the election does raise some doubts about the intentions here. But like every survivor of an assault, you've got to believe their story. She was able to present the newspaper Guardian with a postcard handwritten by Donald Trump. She spoke about it on a call with Anita Hill, and Ashley Judd, the actor, was also on the call. So look, it is a reminder from Kamala Harris and the campaign that America has a choice, and to appeal to women voters, independent voters, and voters who probably still think that a candidate's more moral thoughts and actions do matter when it comes to uh, being seen as the president of the United States. So yes, some apprehensions by some quarters. The Trump campaign dismissed it as just mere allegations. And at the CNN town hall, when people talked about some of the things that are being discussed, I know in 2016 some of these talks were dismissed as locker room boy chat, or something that people chat in the locker room, and whatnot. This time around, there's a new term that's come. It's called the high school rumors. So I think there is some sense of why now, but it is a very compelling story, and I think voters deserve to know. It doesn't matter what time, and I think the Harris campaign made sure that they were able to bring this or reveal this closer to the election to convince the voters.
And finally, Rohit, we're just a couple of weeks away from the presidential election. Could this be the dreaded October surprise for the Trump campaign?
It could very well be. There is another story doing rounds, unconfirmed reports about Donald Trump, and a video of Donald Trump. Now, again, this is unconfirmed. We cannot confirm this, but media in the US has been buzzing with the story that's been pitched to multiple news outlets about Donald Trump groping another young woman and a girl of a major donor to his campaign. Um, Nobody's put out the story yet. It could very well be, an October surprise. We do not know. But as of now, as of today, Donald Trump has solidified his base. He's gained a lot of ground. So for Kamala Harris to make a comeback into this race, she needs a moment, and it doesn't need to really be coming from a mishap at the Trump's behest, or Trump campaign's missteps. It could be something that she needs, and she probably could bring something from her own campaign. I remember in 2019 when she was on a debate stage and she talked about busing. That made a lot of people, learn more about Kamala Harris and relate with her. So I think she needs a big moment, whether from her campaign or a mistake from Trump himself.
Right, Rohit. Thank you so much for joining us. Moving on, Donald Trump's longest-serving chief of staff has issued a warning for the American people. John Kelly, who served as Trump's chief of staff recently, sat down for an interview with the New York Times. During the conversation, Kelly repeatedly expressed that if Trump wins a second term, he could rule like Adolf Hitler. The comments from Kelly come amid a growing series of warnings from former top Trump officials as the election reaches its final weeks. Now, John Kelly has said that Donald Trump was quite fond of the fascist leader Adolf Hitler. He even went on to say that Trump was of the view that Adolf Hitler did some good things. Kelly has long been critical of Trump and previously accused him of calling veterans killed in combat suckers and losers. Kelly's new warnings come less than 2 weeks before Election Day, as Trump seeks a second term. Trump has vowed to dramatically expand his use of the military. He has even expressed that he would use force to go after Americans he considers enemies from within. Meanwhile, the Democratic camp has not let this go unnoticed. During a CNN town hall, Kamala Harris amplified a scathing attack on Donald Trump, suggesting that the former president is a fascist. The Democratic presidential nominee was trying to drive home the message that Trump wants unchecked power. Earlier in the day, Harris's vice presidential nominee Tim Walz also delivered a similar message. He urged Americans to vote for the Democratic ticket against what he called Trump's descent to madness. Moreover, Harris's campaign sent out several posts on social media amplifying the claims made by Kelly. On the other hand, Trump's campaign has denied that the former president made those comments, accusing Kelly of telling debunked stories. However, Kelly is not the first former Trump official to cast the former president as a threat. Retired Army General Mark A. Milley, who served as Trump's chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, has written in his book that Trump is fascist to the core. Now, with just weeks left before Election Day, these revelations could play a crucial role in shaping public opinion. As voters weigh their options, the warnings from figures like John Kelly are offering a stark contrast to the public image Donald Trump has tried to project. It remains to be seen how these shocking revelations will affect Trump's campaign. Will these warnings change the minds of undecided voters? It remains to be seen how these shocking revelations will affect Trump's campaign. Will these warnings change the minds of undecided voters, or will Trump's base continue to stand by him? The Los Angeles Times is engulfed in turmoil just days before the presidential election. The editorials editor of the Los Angeles Times, Mariel Garza, has resigned after the newspaper's owner blocked the board's plan to endorse Kamala Harris. This marks a major shakeup at one of the nation's most influential newspapers. It also raises questions about how the media navigates its role in an increasingly polarized political landscape. Now, Mariel Garza recently sat down for an interview with the Columbia Journalism Review. Garza is a veteran Californian journalist who has worked for the LA Times' editorial board for nearly a decade. During the conversation, she revealed that the resignation came because the Times was remaining silent on key issues in America's polarized politics. However, the president of the broadsheet, Patrick Soon-Shiong, took to X to clarify the news outlet's stance on the US presidential election. In the post, he expressed that there are both positive and negative policies considered by each candidate, and that their tenure at the White House has reflected them, which is why the LA Times has refrained from endorsing any candidate this year. Just to give you some background, the LA Times' opinion editors typically endorse one candidate each for a range of local and national offices. However, this year the editors are asked to present clear and non-partisan information instead of an endorsement. Meanwhile, the Los Angeles Times Guild said that they were concerned about Soon-Shiong's decision to block an endorsement this year. Garza has said that the outlet was prepared to endorse Harris this year, and that she even prepared an outline for the endorsement. However, on October 11th, she was informed that Soon-Shiong had decided that the paper would not be making an endorsement in the presidential contest. The non-endorsement, however, appears to be costing the financially struggling Los Angeles Times some of its subscribers. According to reports, there were record numbers of cancellations of LA Times subscriptions this week. Nearly 400 subscribers cited the editorial content as the reason for cancellation. And now it's time to talk numbers. With less than a month remaining for the US presidential polls, the race for the White House remains intense. Vice President Kamala Harris maintains her narrow lead nationally, but it remains a nectar-like battle in key swing states. So let's take a look at how the presidential contenders are doing in the polls today. According to the New York Times Siena poll, Harris is leading in the national polls with a 49% approval rating, while Trump is trailing at 48%. In the swing states of Michigan and Wisconsin, Harris enjoys a 49-48 lead over Trump. Meanwhile, in the states of North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Nevada, both Harris and Trump are locked in at 48%. In the state of Arizona, Trump has taken a lead with 49% of public support, with Harris at 47%. And in the state of Georgia, Trump enjoys a 49-48 advantage over Harris. With just a few days remaining for the elections, the polls remain as tight as ever. And now it's time to bring you some quick updates from the political landscape in America that you might have missed. Donald Trump's campaign has accused British Prime Minister Keir Starmer's Labour Party of blatant foreign interference in the US election. The Republican candidate's camp has filed a complaint to the Federal Election Commission in Washington. Trump has also called for an investigation into what it termed apparent illegal contributions from the Labour Party to the Harris campaign. Starmer has denied all such allegations and said that these complaints would damage relations with Trump. Second, US intelligence officials say Russia is behind a fake video smearing Democratic VP nominee Tim Walz with fake sexual abuse allegations. The intelligence report says that the baseless allegations were leveled against Walz and spread across social media. This was reportedly done by operatives working for the Kremlin. The disclosure was part of an ongoing effort by election security officials from the FBI and the Department of Homeland Security. And finally, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court has said that voters should be allowed to cast provisional votes in person at their polling place if their mail ballots are rejected. The practice of provisional voting is offered at in-person polling places, where there are some questions raised about the person's eligibility to vote. The provisional vote is counted only after the person's eligibility to vote is confirmed. In this case, the provisional vote would only count if the person's mail ballot had been rejected. That's all we have for you in this edition of Race to the White House. See you again tomorrow.